Streaming fine online? Hello Sheetal, Sanjay Shri, Rahul, Sadia, Shubham. Okay, all of you, good afternoon. Online, I do not know if you guys are in ORN region or not, but offline बच्चे, one suggestion to all of you, okay? Last couple of days क्या, weeks and months हो गया मैं देखता हूँ. See, you know, the place where you live, the place where you work, the place where you interact, खासकर, okay, your career, life, it's nothing less than a place of worship. You know, हमारा घर हो, हमारे offices हो, मंदिर मस्जिद जैसा ही है. Okay, it is where you grow up, you belong to. Make sure that the areas around you are kept clean and nice. Okay, you know, you guys, I mean, I can't go and tell everybody there, but आप लोग जहाँ भी होटल जाते हो, okay, I mean, it's such filled here. And ORN, I believe, is, if I say that, you know, it's India ka highest intellectual knowledge per square foot, right? The amount of education, awareness, the amount of sensitivity you must develop is much higher than anybody else in the country. ऐसा pocket India में बहुत जगह है नहीं, okay? And with this diversity of knowledge, at least the places where you go to, आप जिस होटल में खाना खाते हैं या फिर आप जिस दुकान में जाते हो, okay, थोड़ा सा अड़ जाया करो वहाँ पर. Why so much of fill the dirt, you know, on the streets, on the footpath? हर जगह नहीं. I'm not saying you become a नेता, एक जुलूस निकालो, वो नहीं. That's not your work. But the place where you belong, and I'll be happy if you come and tell me कि sir building में क्यों गंदगी है, right? I made them work yesterday. Okay, today I'm telling them again. I mean, it's not lot of investments. Okay, at least tell your friends. I've seen, I mean, होटल में खाते हैं, टेबल वहीं है, वहीं पर हाथ पहुंचा, वहीं गंदा डाल दिया. It reflects on everything. Our attitude, our mindset. We talk about development and superpower and Vikshit Bharat. ये सब नौटंकी ड्रामाबाजी हो जाएगा if you do not do the basics. Basics, I mean, every evening when I'm going back from here on the metro, I use metro by the way, largely, I'm amazed by how people break rules. बस 5 minutes more. अगर लंबा लाइन है, okay, it'll take 6-7 minutes. उसमें भी कोई बैठ के घुसा दे रहा है बैग inside that metro, you know, security check. कोई ऊपर देख के ऐसे कुछ पता ही नहीं है कि खड़े हो गया लाइन में. Okay, and every day I end up arguing with somebody or the other. One boy, couple of weeks ago, मैं उसको थप्पड़ ही मार देता उस देर के बाद में. But then I said, नहीं, मेरी अपनी इज्जत भी है, अगर वो कुछ उल्टा मार देगा, okay, फिर तो मेरी इज्जत जाएगी और क्या. Okay, but it's amazing how we tolerate this nonsense. And that's the reason why, you know, Indians as tourists outside are scoffed at. वो इंडियन देखते ही दिनों ये तो रूल तोड़ेगा. हम पूरा इंडिया को नहीं चेंज कर पाएंगे, एटलीस्ट अपने गली में देख लो आप, दैट्स ऑल, नथिंग एल्स. Okay, so please, you know, you offline guys, and it's very infectious, believe me. आप 2-3-4 बार करो, you'll find others also ultimately. And I made the guy, हमारे building के नीचे that shop used to be there, okay, वहीं बैठे हैं स्टूल पे, वहीं गंदन. How do you even, you know, and I can see you are spending some time with the friends. आप इवनिंग में कॉफी पिया, कैसे पी पाते हो कॉफी? Okay, इतना गंदगी around your feet, around your, I mean, and उसमें I can see some of you romancing also. So how do you romance in the field that I do not know? Okay, it's proverbial. कमल खिलेगा गंदगी से, I do not know. Okay, वो क्या खिल रहा है, whatever. ठीक है? So please, okay, and I repeat, don't take it as a, you know, as the activist role मत लो. आपका काम है पढ़ाई करना. I don't want जुलूस निकाल के and all, no. But wherever possible, okay, say it aloud. Tell your friends कि don't do this. Where possible, pick up a dirt if possible गंदे में लेके डाल दो. Just this much. It's a part of, I said it's a part of worship. आपके books, I mean, one thing is, your book is chaotic. Your table is chaotic. दूसरा है, your table is filthy, dirt. ये दो अलग चीज है. When I am studying, my books are all over the place. Like, I cannot study when the books are stacked up neat and clean. ये book तो फिर मैं पढ़ूंगा कैसे? When I am studying, 4 books are opened up. My laptop is one part. Okay, I can see some notes somewhere. That's chaotic. Okay. Filthy is वहीं खाना गिरा हुआ है. Okay, वहीं पर मेरे मुंह से गंदे निकाल के डाल दिए हैं. Stinking also probably. Okay, crushed pages. That's filthy. So chaos is different thing and filth is different. We are filthy. हम गंदे हैं. And I do not know if you guys know this or not. अभी नहीं, हो गया 7-8-10 साल हो गया. There was a Norwegian ambassador in India. Ambassador from Norway to India. He made a public statement. India is a large open dustbin. अब बहुत बवाल हुआ था. Like everybody ऐसे कैसे बोल दिया, वैसे कैसे बोल दिया. I mean, yes, उसको कहना नहीं चाहिए था. That was decency. But कुछ गलत नहीं बोल रहा था वो. We are a large open dustbin. We don't care about our place, our sentiments. बस एक कहने के लिए we are spiritual. I cannot see how you can be spiritual in filth. You can only be blind, insensitive, apathetic in filth. Spirituality is cleanliness, safai, okay, and so much of premium we have on purity. Purity के basis पे आपने हमारे caste system है. On purity we talk in terms of who is going to hell or heaven. Okay, and look at the filth we have. Just a reminder to all of you. Okay, do what you can without getting activist. Activism nahi chahiye. Remember, your work is go back and study. That's your primary work. Yes, I agree. I've seen quite a bit of places, India mein aur bahar bhi. Okay, and this is directly reflection on your actual education. Not kitna degree le liya. Actual education kya hai? It shows up there. Yes, Akshat, and the paradox is ORN has all the knowledge that you would require. Okay, young people, और क्या चाहिए था बताओ? Young people, aspirational, studying a range of subjects, development commitment. कितने कहानी बोलते हो? When I ask you interview में, why IAS? Oh my God, जैसे कि आप ही से एकदम development झर जा रहा है. Every orifice of your face, body में development निकल रहा है. And you cannot take care of some simple basic things. Okay? So, yeah, so that's a distraction. भड़ास निकाल दिया मैंने. Let's get back to our studies. So, we were with geographical thought. Okay, we have uploaded your post-class notes also. Okay, it takes us some time. So, geographical thought mein, I explained what is the purpose and the objective of this unit. Okay, the objective is to understand how geography as a subject has evolved. That's the objective. And who are the contributors? What were their philosophies? What the debates? ये purpose है. Then I talked about the development of geography. You can see in terms of the phases in geography's evolution. Phase 1 was antiquity. याद है, I hope. The phase 1 was the phase of classical antiquity. Then we have the Dark Age. And parallel to the Dark Age was the age of the Arabs as contributors. Okay, the fourth important phase was the age of revivalism, the age of cultural renaissance, and the age of the voyages. Okay, so with this what happened was, we start appreciating, yes, the world is very diverse. The world has a lot of things. The world is not simply a place to live in. So we must study the world also as a subject. Okay, the present day subjects they don't treat the world in entirety. We are specialized in plants, specialized in animals, we specialize in physics, mathematics, but ऐसा कोई subject नहीं है that can study the earth in totality. Okay, so from this, we had the next phase as the phase of pre-classical geography, which was the phase when the philosophical foundation of geography as a possible, a discipline was argued for. इस phase में there are some contributors arguing कि geography subject होना चाहिए. It's always this, before India become independent, somebody must have told first India can be independent. When Tilak says, Swaraj is my birthright. Before Swaraj, हमारा thought क्या था? कि we are under British, ठीक है. We must help British work for development. We must present our case to British. वो ignorant है, उनको पता नहीं है शायद. Write letters, write petitions, have meetings and tell them कि आप लोग हमारे लिए कर दो. Then Tilak says कि no, ये होगा नहीं. British are foreigners, they cannot work for us. So Swaraj, independence is what we need. And then the whole narrative of India's struggle starts. तो किसी को पहले सोचना पड़ेगा. Somebody must think aloud, yes, India can be developed. Somebody must seed the idea that geography is possible, that geography as a subject has an argument why it should exist. So this is why I'm saying it was the time when the philosophical foundation of geography as a possible discipline was argued for. इसके बाद में the phase when geography actually gets established. We call this as the classical phase, we call this as the modern phase. Some have called this as the professionalism phase of geography. Why? Geography now becomes a profession. जैसे कि before the sub-branches happened, engineering, for example, engineering में electrical engineering had computers, it also had electronics. अलग subject नहीं था. In electrical engineering, एक chapter था called semiconductors. So I would not be called as an electronics engineer. I would still be an electrical engineer. But when the branching happens, now electronics becomes a separate subject. It becomes a separate department. Now I'm called as an electronics engineer. Say, today you know about, there is manufacturing engineering, there is automobile engineering, there is aerospace engineering. In some milaka, it was only one called as mechanical engineering. But once it matures, it has enough content, it has enough of, concepts which are different from the rest of mechanical engineering. Now you have a proper discipline, department ban gaya. So earlier what happened was geography was part of other subjects. Through geography शायद geologists पढ़ते थे, through geography शायद environmentalists पढ़ते थे, through geography was literature, but nobody had a geography department. We didn't have professors who called themselves as geographers. This changes here. That's why we call this as the phase of professionalism in geography. And two people here, Humboldt and Ritter. They also called as fathers of modern geography. किसी ने idea दिया पहले कि okay, geography बनाते हैं, and these guys actually made it. And once geography has been made, अब शुरू होता है the debates in geography. Please do not see these debates as, don't see these debates as arguments or conflicts. These debates are part of enrichment of the subject itself. अगर debate नहीं होगा, अगर differences नहीं होंगे, then तो you all are studying only one thing without any creativity. Okay, so debates में there were conflicts as in academic conflicts. New ideas were offered, challenges were put forward कि नहीं ये गलत है, ये सही है, and from the debates, geography keeps on enriching itself. Okay, so these debates include, I said, physical versus human geography. This debate includes determinism versus possibilism. अब इस सब के themes क्या हैं? I'll take up eventually. This debate has what is regional geography versus systematic geography, areal differentiation versus quantitative revolution. We have the debate of descriptive versus analytical geography, behavioral versus humanistic geography, and then we have debates around the role of geography in solving human problems. एक applied approach का भी debate रहा कि should geography, and if you look at the present day planning and development, two subjects have a very strong role in any place, in any country or any city's planning development, which are number one, economics proper planning होता है, economic planning होता है, and second is planning with geography. In India, one of the apex bodies of planning is called as a Town and Country Planning Organization, TCPO बोलते हैं. Okay, and this TCPO का main population, main scholars are geographers. GIS planning, because geography talks about place, geography talks about location, geography talks about how to interlink places. अगर road बनाना है, industries बनाने हैं, if you have to have certain mobility corridors, you require place, you require location, you require some space, and spatial planning is the domain of geography. Economic planning can tell you, okay, exports must grow 10%. Okay, geography will tell you exports from where. Okay, economics will tell you, or trade में industries must grow 20%. Geography will tell you industry जो grow करेगा वो कहाँ का industry होगा. बिहार में होगा, बिहार में कहाँ पर, यूपी में होगा, where in UP, will it be on the east coast or the west coast. Okay, I have to make roads, where to make the roads, mountains में, plains में. So applied aspect में a very important role of geography is planning for development, planning for growth, planning for employment, whatever you want to talk about there. और जब planning आ जाता है, geography and economy kind of overlap now. In fact, geography, if you know well, it will take care of 20-30% of economic concepts in UPSC. Population, industries, agriculture, infrastructure, trade is part of geography syllabus itself. Okay, so these were the debates in geography. So slowly, gradually, I said, geography evolves from say scattered views and ideas and observations of Earth. Okay, scattered थे, scattered से we moved on towards describing. Okay, we move on towards analyzing, and we moved on towards applications. This is how geography as subject has evolved. Scattered, some geography in the works of travelers, some geography in the works of poets, geography in the works of writers, geography in philosophies. Is scattered information. This is what is the classical antiquity. Then somebody organized it and said, okay, let us describe the Earth. Earth is round, Earth is spherical, Earth has forest, Earth has water, Earth has land, Earth has mountain. A description है, you're describing what Earth has. Okay, Earth and its components. Okay, तो यहाँ पर focus है what? What does Earth have? When I say analysis, I'm talking about why. What does Earth have? Himalayas. What does Earth have? Okay, we have the Arctic region. What does the Earth have? Congo forest. यहाँ पर आप why बोलोगे. Why is Himalayas where it is? और कहीं क्यों नहीं हुआ? Why the forests of Congo are so rich and dense and okay, और कहीं क्यों नहीं Congo forests हैं? Why do we have the rivers where we have them? So from what I am moving towards why, I am explaining. यहाँ पर I'm describing, here I am explaining. Then somebody said, यार ये knowledge लेके हम करेंगे क्या? If this knowledge cannot solve poverty, if the knowledge cannot solve problems of discrimination, the knowledge can't address conflicts, इसका क्या करेंगे knowledge लेकर? Like, the world outside is burning, conflict, और मैं बैठ के अपने रूम में अर्थ क्या है हम पढ़ रहे हैं. Geographers had a serious issue there कि इतना कुछ जानते हैं about earth, we know so much about the earth, resources क्या हैं, what the problems are, why do we have disasters, why do we have floods, okay, why do people move, इतना कुछ ज्ञान लेकर what will I do this? Then said, okay, this knowledge should be used for the betterment of society. Let's plan industry, let's plan urbanization. This year, I'm seeing urban settlements as a very important theme in mains because you've seen the focus in the budget this time. Talking about super cities, 100 cities, we're talking about 20 years plan. Suna aapne budget mein is baar? So I can see urbanization, planning, development, a very important theme for this year's mains. That's how you map the current affairs with what you must study. So application is यहाँ पर planning will be a very important application. So I quickly revised whatever we had done in yesterday's class. Okay? So the phases and how geography has evolved from scattered information towards applied studies and applied significance of geography as a subject. Any doubts till here? Anybody? Offline, online? Hello, Lakshmikant. Okay, Lakshmikant, I hope you are not the same man. Okay, सबका life खराब कर रखा आपने. You are a different, better person maybe. Hello, Daniel. Clear? All fine? Pitam Roy? All good? Any doubts offline? Offline guys, in the last batch, some of them complained also. Sir, आप बहुत ध्यान देते हो online बच्चों का और offline का कोई ध्यान नहीं देते हो. मैंने कहा offline बच्चे सुन रहे हैं. Offline, you can touch me, okay, you can physically interact with me. Yeah, so offline, no boundaries here. You can always share your issues. Okay, Abdul Sattar from Pakistan. Welcome. Okay, we are a very good people here. Okay, I'm sure there are as many good people there also. ये नालायक politician ही बर्बाद करते हैं. Okay, but yes, I'm very happy. And let me know if you want me to change the syllabus of Pakistan in geography, I'll do that. Syllabus, I can't change geography otherwise. Okay, but happy to have you on the platform. Lakshmikant is my old student. Acha, theek hai. I'm waiting when Humboldt and Ritter can also be my student. Lakshmikant ab ho hi gaye to. Anyways, let's get on. Any doubts here? Okay, let's go on. So, we were discussing the contributions in the classical antiquity. Contributions in classical antiquity. By the way, have you all brought your textbook with you? I will insist, please get your books. Geographical thought cannot be studied without the books. Okay, आपको लाना होगा and I'll underline the pages for you. Okay, so we'll do that. In antiquity, I was discussing the contributions of the Greeks. 8th, 9th century से शुरू हुआ, Greeks. One of you asked me yesterday message में. By the way, those who have joined me new, this is my phone number. You can always leave a message on the WhatsApp if you have any doubts. Okay, I may not reply immediately, but I do see the messages. Unless I miss out, दोबारा कर देना और क्या, big deal. Okay, so I do get messages. दो doubt से पूछ लिया करना. So one doubt was, sir, why are we not studying Indian geography contributors among the list? For that matter, none of this is asked. अभी तक कोई क्वेश्चन पूछा नहीं गया है on the Greek contributors or Roman contributors. And जो भी questions पूछे गए हैं in the old syllabus में Greeks and Romans ही पूछा गया है. तो जिस दिन दे स्टार्ट आस्किंग इंडियन जोग्राफर्स, मैं पढ़ा दूंगा. Okay, so your batch is a casualty, next batch will learn from me. So I am hedging. हम सब नहीं पढ़ा सकते आपको. Okay, so I'm not teaching you geography. I'm teaching you geography to qualify in the examination. Okay, so I'm taking a risk here. So why we can study. Okay, but then नहीं पूछा है. Okay, तो नहीं पढ़ा रहे. जिस दिन पूछ लेगा, अगले बैच से पढ़ा दूंगा. So that's a risk I've taken, and I think we'll stick with that. Okay, so Greeks first, then Roman rest. Greeks में I gave you a list. I think I have done Homer, right? 9th century BC. 9th century BC में he wrote this book called as Iliad. It's a story of the travel of Odysseus from Ithaca. Odysseus is one of the characters in his book, and when he travels, he describes the places, the adventure he faces, okay, the geography that he's living through. So in this way, Homer describes quite a bit of place around the Greeks, around the Greek kingdoms. Okay? Homer. The next one was Thales and Anaximander. Thales and Anaximander. Okay. There is a place called as Miletus. एक जगह था, ट्रेडिंग सेंटर था, Miletus. So the books will write as Thales of Miletus or Anaximander of Miletus. Okay, ये जगह का नाम है. Now Thales and Anaximander, they drew maps. They started using meridians. In fact, their map is among the first map geography has seen. And they must have drawn the map according to what they thought the world is. For them, the world was mostly Greece. But they had drawn maps. They started using meridians, the lines of latitude. They drew a meridian passing through Miletus. They consider Miletus the center of the earth types. Okay. So when they're doing this, they are using a lot of mathematical calculations. Okay, they are using a lot of geometry in map making. In fact, Anaximander, he is known to have used a sundial called as gnomon. वो कहीं से some trader must have brought it. Okay, from the Arab world. Arab world means the sundial was very common. Somebody must have brought it, and Anaximander has used it to again make some maps or whatever. Okay, so what happens is, if you compare Homer was literature. Homer was descriptive. Homer was in terms of speculation and imagination. Thales and Anaximander, okay, we say that they introduced a mathematical tradition in geography. Okay, just the key words. Yes, this was the first instance of cartography. Correct, very nice. जो map बनाया, this map making tradition is also called as cartography. Okay, so Homer, who was literature, poet, descriptions, imaginations. Okay, this was the literary tradition बोलते हैं इसको. It's called as the literary tradition in geography. Thales and Anaximander introduced the mathematical tradition in geography. Mathematics, calculations, map making, all of that was added here. ठीक है, so as a shift from the old method towards the new method. Of course, these maps must not have been correct, but शुरुआत किया था इन्होंने. In fact, we say that they were among the first people to use meridians to locate a place. Okay, so there is, आप अगर नेट खोजोगे, you'll get a map, the first map of the world according to Thales and Anaximander. ठीक है, so we don't need beyond this. Next, the next person is this man called as Hecataeus. Hecataeus. Now, Hecataeus, he wrote a book called as Ges Peridos. It's about Earth. Okay, this book is lost. इस book के बारे में other books have written. Okay, so Ges Peridos, G-E-S. Ges Peridos. Now, this book is the first writing in the regional approach. तो ये जो word है ना regional, ये geography में बहुत जगह आएगा. Study of regions, what are regions, types of regions, a regional geography of India. Okay, essentially region क्या होता है? I mean, let me quickly capture this for you. So there I have got two options. One is I study the whole world at one go. पूरे world में mountains of earth, oceans of the earth, the lakes of the earth, the atmosphere of the earth, the climate of the earth. ये पूरे earth के बारे में हो गया. Then somebody says कि नहीं, इतना बड़े scale में we can't study. It becomes difficult to manage. So let's take up one small part of earth. Let's take up, say, Africa. And we study mountain of Africa, lakes of Africa, the rivers of Africa, the people of Africa, the climate of Africa. We call this as regional geography of Africa. इसको हम और छोटा कर सकते हैं. I can take up only Sahara Desert. And I'll say, let's have regional geography of Sahara. So Sahara Desert में climate of Sahara, the tribes of Sahara, the lakes of Sahara, the rivers of Sahara, the people of Sahara, it becomes a regional geography of Sahara. इसको मैं और छोटा कर सकता हूँ. I can take up only Libya. I can take up only Algeria, the regional geography of Algeria. In geography, this approach is a very unique approach. So paper 2 essentially is the regional geography of India. India mountains, India's climate, India's vegetation, India's people. So in geography, this idea of regions was started by Hecataeus. He's considered as the first regional geographer, or the first regional scholar was Hecataeus. First एक line में, okay, I don't want a big time writing as essay. नाम क्या था? Okay, this is approximately 5th century BC. Okay, so 9th, 10th century BC is Homer. This is 5th century BC. Hecataeus. Okay. Now Hecataeus, and almost same time में ही we had this man called as Herodotus. Herodotus. This also 5th, 4th century BC की बात हो रही है. Same time. Now Herodotus, he wrote extensively. He was a traveler. He was a traveler. Okay. He had traveled extensively along the Mediterranean coasts. Okay, along the coast of Mediterranean. Okay, whatever he could have, and Herodotus, he discussed the tribes and the people of the Mediterranean coast. The people, the tribes, their cultures. Okay. Now, because he studied tribes and people, he is sometimes called as, okay, the first a human geographer. The first human geographer. He's also called the first ethnocentric approach. The first ethno, as in study of tribes, is study of ethnicities. The first human geographer, because he's studying people, tribes. The first ethnographer. Okay, he's also the first ethnographer. Okay, so देखो, and this approach is also a bit more descriptive. ये डिस्क्रिप्टिव अप्रोच है. दिस इज नॉट mathematical tradition. This is also a regional approach because studying the areas around the Mediterranean Sea. Okay, so geography में literary tradition है, mathematical tradition है. Geography has lot of physical geography description. Geography has lot of people-centric studies. तो यही हम देख रहे हैं. So Herodotus, as a traveler, traveling along the Mediterranean coast, studying the tribes and the ethnic groups along the Mediterranean coast, may be considered as first human geographer or the first ethnographer. Okay, studying geography from the perspective of the local populations. And देखो, जब भी आप लोगों के बारे में पढ़ रहे हो ना, okay, and cultures के बारे में पढ़ रहे हो, automatically you have to talk about history. Say किसी एरिया का कल्चर क्या है, you will trace it then. Oh, पहले they were farmers, then they become traders, and then they have become industrialists. They were villagers, now they have become urban dwellers. Their culture has changed like this. Marriages पहले ऐसे होते थे, अब ऐसे होते हैं. The moment you talk about culture, because culture is what? Culture is what we do. Culture is ways of life. Our diet, our language, our customs, our rituals, our belief systems. Okay. So the moment you talk about cultures, cultures are always the product of history. Culture always develop over a long span of time. Okay. So the cultural geographers हैं, they also will be historical geographers. So Herodotus, okay, is the first person to have studied history and geography together. Studied history and geography together. ये आगे काम आएगा. Who started this concept? You cannot study geography without knowing history, and vice versa. In fact, Herodotus made a very famous statement. He said, history must be studied geographically, and geography must be studied historically. It's a very powerful statement. History must be studied geographically, and geography must be studied historically. Okay, so some people therefore also call him as the father of history. Okay, but apart from this, okay, so what were the contributions of the Greeks? The Greeks brought in the literary tradition, the Greeks brought in map-making tradition, the Greeks brought in mathematical calculations, the Greeks, you can trace the origin of regional studies, and in Greeks you also have study of man, his cultures and ethnicity. Take the contributions of the early Greeks. All fine? I hope all of you by now realize notes जो आप बना रहे हो, don't see the board and make the notes. Okay, आप सुन के लिखो. Board में बस I am scribbling. Okay, that keeps my pace for you to manage. अगर मैं लिखूंगा नहीं, तो I'll move at a different pace. Okay, so please don't get overwhelmed by my handwriting here. Okay, it's a genetic problem, I can't help it. So board देख के मत लिखो, but yes, you give a sense of organization. ये पढ़ के समझ में आ रहा है ना कि हिस्ट्री हो सकता है और क्या हो सकता है ये, right? And this is first history and geography. Okay, so don't get scandalized by sir क्या ही लिख रहे हो आप लोग, ठीक है? Yes, all history must be treated geographically and geography must be treated historically. ठीक है? So this is the contribution of Herodotus. The next person we talk about is Plato. Yeah, this is E or D, what is it? This is E, the fifth one. The contributions of Plato. In fact, ये एक एक कंटिन्यूम है, प्लेटो, प्लेटो के बाद में वी हैव एरिस्टोटल, ओके, इसके बाद में वी हैव दिस मैन कॉल्ड एज इराटोस्थेनिस, Eratosthenes. He is the teacher. His student was Aristotle, and his was Eratosthenes. Plato himself was taught by Socrates. Okay, Socrates. ठीक है, so ये एक टाइप का sequence of the contributions हैं. So we begin with Plato. Now, 3-4 things. One is Plato is, apart from the mathematics, he encouraged scientific methods in study. Scientific methods which are based on logical deductions. Okay, देखो, watch here. देखो, what is science? Okay, and how we define science के अलग अलग तरीके हैं. But one aspect of science is that in scientific knowledge there is no random, speculative, imaginary guesswork. ये बहुत important feature of science है. Non-science is imagination, creativity. Okay, I can think some random thing and say it also. My work of art can be non-scientific. I can make anything I want to say. Like imagine the way Homer is telling us about what is Earth. Imagination ही तो है कि अच्छा ऊपर आकाश दिख रहा है, sky दिख रहा है. I can't imagine sky as void. Okay. And I can't imagine how the sky can stay there. So I imagine there must be pillars. Okay, so he has done some imagination here. Science में you can't have imaginations. So अगर imagination नहीं है, there are only two ways of having scientific knowledge. One is go and see. What is moon? I do not know. I'll go and see what moon is. I'll go to moon, study the moon, what rocks. It must be backed by solid evidences which I have actually experienced. We call that approach as empirical approach. Empirical का मतलब होता है observation. Okay, what is Sri Lanka like? I say I'll not guess. Okay, I'll go there. I will see the place, travel the place, make notes. Okay, and I'll say, oh, Sri Lanka is this. That's one way. Second way is I can use logic. I won't go to Sri Lanka, but my logic is what? Logic is Sri Lanka is further down south of India. Sri Lanka is an island. मैं गया नहीं हूं. I have reading somewhere. कुछ photographs देखा मैंने. Okay. So अगर south of India है, towards equator, it's bound to be warmer. Okay. Sri Lanka is an island, a small island. So Sri Lanka cannot have extreme climates. Sri Lanka is along the path of some winds. छोटा island है, इधर से wind, it's bound to have more rains. I hope you got the point here. So I am discussing Sri Lanka without going there, and I'm using logic. I'm using some kind of mathematical basis. As I go towards equator, temperatures increases at 1 degree centigrade every latitude. Sri Lanka is 10 degrees away, so temperature will be 10 degrees more. एक logic है, mathematical logic है. So this is also science. I'm not gone to sun, right? How do I know about sun? I've used some logic. Okay, sun is so far away, इतना energy आता है, इतना दूर है. Okay, I've seen something, then I'm interpolating. I'm extrapolating. We call that as logical studies. Okay, so the beginnings of logical studies in geography I can trace to Plato. Plato was a scholar of approach called as deductive reasoning. He's the father of deductive reasoning. Okay, इसमें क्या होता है? In deductive reasoning, I first make a general statement. Okay. My general statement is based on whatever I have seen. I have gone to Himalayas, I went to Aravalli's Mount Abu, I went to maybe some place in Western Ghats. Okay. 2-3 जगह देख लिया मैंने. And I make a statement कि mountains are always cold. Okay. Then I go and check. Is Rockies also cold? Is Alps also cold? Is Atlas Mountain also cold? Okay. Then I say yes, all cold. So my generalization is correct. Where the law is now mountains are cold. Have you got the point here? So there are the instance 1, instance 2, instance 3, instance 4, instance 5, 6, ऐसे millions of instances. What I'll do is, I'll study 1, I study 4, I study 5. Based on this, I make an assessment that in poverty, okay, there will be conflicts. Then I go and check, क्या ये idea यहाँ पर लागू है? Yes. या यहाँ पर लागू है? Oh no. I said नहीं, यहाँ पर मुझे लग रहा है poverty conflicts में it's about poverty and a sense of alienation creates conflict. So मैंने अपना law को change कर दिया. Then I go and check. Is it true here? Yes. Is it true here? Yes. Then I found यहाँ पर सही नहीं है. So I've added, modified. Poverty, alienation, and more importantly, lack of governance is the reason of conflicts. I hope you can see what I'm doing here. I start with one observation, I make a law. Then I go and checking the law. And as I find exceptions, I modify my law. ऐसे करते करते, ultimate my conclusion is, poverty is not the main issue of conflict, it's actually deprivation, alienation, bad governance, and maybe political narratives. ठीक है? This is one way of scientific study. So you are starting with a general idea and you are checking with the particulars. And then you confirm this as a law. इसको बोलते हैं deductive reasoning. So deductive reasoning में remember this mnemonic, DGP याद रखना. Deductive is from general towards specific. So I study 1, 2 instance. I gave a general law. Then I'm checking the particulars. हर जगह जाके check कर रहा हूं. And as we have deviations, I keep on changing my general law. So general law, correct, 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 wrong, wrong. So based on this, this law now gets modified into ये G1 law था, ये G2 law हो गया. G2 law, correct, 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 not correct, not correct. Based on this, I modify and make a third one, the general law called 3. And that's how my knowledge keeps on improving. So in science, nothing is final, remember that. Science का objective ही है, okay, you can never know everything at one go. But you know at least what is correct and then keep on modifying it. Okay, science का beauty is you are not attached to a dogma. Dogma का मतलब क्या है? A law and idea that you cannot refute. Okay, God है तो है. Why, how, no logic. God है तो है. That's a dogma. God है because he said so, he said so, he said so. ठीक है. Fourth guy कुछ और logic दे रहा है मुझे. Then I modify the idea called God. I hope you got the point here. So science का जो approach है, okay, Greeks have done a lot of work on this, and one of the person was Plato. So Plato introduced, okay, ये पहला point. He introduced deductive reasoning. अच्छा, इसमें geography कहाँ है? Based on this, he has described the earth. Based on this deductive reasoning, he described the earth, and one of the very important description is earth is a sphere. Earth is a sphere. Okay. Plato is said to have established this using logical reasoning. Kaise? Kaise? Look at this. He asked him, why is the earth spherical? He says, God made earth. अब God made earth is your first generalization. ये law बना दिया आपने. Back then, okay, why this happens? Why does A happen? Because B. Why does B happen? Because of C. Why does C happen? Because of D. Why does D happen? I do not know. There's something unknown. I said, इसको God बना दो. Why does X happen? Because of Y. Why does Y happen? Because of Z. Why does Z happen? I do not know. Some factor I can't explain. I said, ये भी God है. I'm going logical. I can't explain. कुछ power है. वो power का नाम मैंने God दे दिया. Why does 1 happen? Because of 2. 2 because of 3. 3 because of 4. Why 4? I do not know. Some power, again, I just call this God. So, Plato says there is God because he is deducting this logically. And then he says, therefore, God made earth. Now, if God made earth, God is perfect. God can't have flaws. God can't make mistakes. God is highly efficient. And in nature, the most efficient shape is a sphere. Therefore, earth has to be a sphere. Why is spherical shape most efficient? Why? It has the maximum volume in minimum surface area. As a circle, circle has the maximum area in the minimum circumference. I hope you got the point here. So, God made earth is one of the deductive laws. From this law, he says, God made earth, God is perfect. Okay. God will make perfect earth. God will make perfect shape. So, earth has to be perfect shape. Therefore, earth is spherical. This was a logically deduced idea of the shape of the earth. Okay. और ये जो idea है, this idea that God made something, ये जो God वाला idea है, okay, this God determines everything, okay, God decides the purpose, इस idea को बोलते हैं teleology बोलते हैं. This was the beginnings of teleology in geography. Okay, teleology, T-E-L-E-O-L-O-G-Y, teleology. So, Plato is a deductive reasoning scholar. Plato deductively proved earth is a sphere, and Plato introduced teleology into earth studies. For Plato or for the people of teleology, nothing is random. सबका कुछ ना कुछ purpose है. Why do we have water here? There's a purpose. The purpose is divine. Why do we have mountain here? There's a purpose. Purpose is divine. इसको बोलते हैं teleology. So Plato, okay, Plato introduced teleological approach into study of earth. Study of earth. अच्छा, प्लेटो ने एक और भी काम किया था. Plato also observed man's destructive role in destroying the balance and the harmony on earth. God made earth. Earth was perfect. But man has a destructive role. Man destroys the harmony. Okay, man destroys the nature. Man causes soil erosion. So, he observed man's destructive role in destroying the balance and harmony on earth. On earth. So, in his book, he describes Attica. Attica is one of the centers of Athens, describes Attica was much degraded, okay, because of human activities. Describes how Attica was much degraded. Attica is a place in ancient Athens. Attica was much degraded because of human activities. In fact, बड़ा poetic में बताते हैं. Just as, you know, just as a man wastes away, energy is gone, muscles are gone, okay, and man is now soulless. वैसे ही says, Attica is now soulless. The soils are eroded, the forests are gone, all because of human activities. So this is one of the first reference of man-environment relationship. One of the first references of man-environment relationship. ये जो conclusion है ना, ये important है. Okay, what did Homer do? Literary tradition. What did Thales and Anaximander do? Cartography and mathematics. What did Hecataeus do? A regional approach. Herodotus, ethnography. Okay, regional and study of cultures and time. What did Plato do? One of which is this one. The first person to have studied or referred to the man-environment relationship. And in this relationship, remember, man is the agent of destruction. Man destroys the balance. Man causes pollution, erosion, and all of that. The contributions of Plato. Is it okay, all of you? Okay, let's move on. The next contribution is the works of Aristotle. The works of Aristotle. He was a student of Plato. Okay. Aristotle was a student of Plato. And Aristotle, he is considered as the father of inductive approach. Father of inductive approach. देखो, what is deductive approach? This is make a law, and from the law you check with the specifics, and from here you modify the law. This is DGP. You start with a law. You start with a generalization. From here you check with specifics, and then you again modify the generalization. Inductive to ulta hai. In inductive, you study all specifics, and then you conclude the law. You don't make a law first. You first study every instance. You study every specific. You study every instance. So don't start with, okay, earth is sphere. Don't start with God made earth. पहले आप हर planet पढ़ो. How A was formed, how B was formed, how C was formed, how Mars, how Jupiter, or every planet. And then tell me कि अच्छा हर case में God is making it. Okay. So if I go by both approach, एक में क्या है? एक में start with a general, then you check with specifics, and then you establish the law. Other approach is study all specifics, then make a law. So if I ask you guys, which of this looks more scientific, first or second one? Okay? इसमें तो errors होगा ना. आपने जनरल लॉ बनाया, आपने चेक किया, कुछ गलती हो गया, फिर मॉडिफाई किया, फिर आप चेक कर रहे हो, फिर कुछ गलती होगा, फिर मॉडिफाई करोगे. Isn't it? Make sense, all of you? So if I compare this was more specific, more scientific. But the fact is, ये करना मुश्किल है. So even if this is seemingly more scientific, this is the more popular approach. जब आप PhD research करते हो ना, research scholars are first asked to give us your hypothesis first. Hypothesis is the beginning of research, which is essentially a law you're making first. So my research is on, okay, child labor is responsible for children not going to school. ये मैंने पहले बना दिया. The team will approve it. Okay, I accept the hypothesis. Let us now research on it. Then I go all around. Child labor यहाँ पर है, no school. Child labor यहाँ पर, no school. I find here no, child labor है, but there is a school there. Okay, why? Because the factory is giving some education. Then I found some other place. Child labor नहीं है और बच्चे फिर भी स्कूल नहीं जा रहे हैं. Then modify. Child labor, an absence of, okay, schools infrastructure, okay, discourages children to go to school. मैं modify करूँगा. And ultimately, child labor is not the main factor. The main factor is probably social issues, patriarchy, lack of education incentives that refuses children to go to school. मैंने शुरू किया था, then I modify and give some other law. I hope you got the point here. So if I compare this looks more scientific. Practical में ये नहीं use होता है, ये use होता है. It's called as, we call this as a hypothetical deductive method. You first make a hypothesis. Hypothesis is like a loose law. You make a hypothesis, then you check hypothesis and keep on modifying it till you get the best, okay, last statement. Nirbasan, don't go that route. हम बताएंगे धीरे धीरे. Those words are dangerous words. Okay, अभी use नहीं करेंगे. Okay, so Aristotle was the opposite of what Plato was telling us. Both are scientific, but remember, both are scientific approach. Both are logical reasoning. But दोनों के अलग-अलग approaches. It's like, you know, if you know this in your multiple choice questions, right? One is, I give a question to you, you study everything, then you solve the question. Okay. Second approach is, give the question, give you the answer also. Then you deduce backwards, कि अच्छा ऐसा answer है, तो यही theory apply किया होगा. I'm sure some of you have done that. Okay. You see the question, look at the answer, then you think, अच्छा ये क्या कहना, अच्छा okay, now I know why it is A. I'm doing the reverse. Give me the answer, and then I'll tell you how the formula was used. So both are scientific, okay, but Aristotle is the father of inductive approach. Okay, that's one contribution. And because inductive approach, he is more concerned about the empirical evidences. Empirical. So इनको evidence बहुत important है, because he's studying the specifics, no? जो specifics हैं, ये important है. So Aristotle is, okay, studying evidences very seriously. Earth is round. Who said that first? Plato. Okay, and he used the teleological argument. Who proved Earth is round? Aristotle. But famous evidences there, right? Because the lunar eclipse, solar eclipse have a curve. Okay, because if you see from far, जो ship आ रहा है, पहले आपको flag दिखता है. Then you see the mast. I'm sure all of you have read this in your school, right? That means the surface is curving. If the Earth was flat, okay, and I am watching from here, मुझे शुरू से ही पूरा ship दिखाई देगा. छोटा दिखाई देगा. I can see the whole ship. But if the Earth is spherical, I'm standing here. Okay, ये horizon का line है. So I'll see the flag first. Then I will see the flag and the mast, and then I will see the ship. The evidence है कि Earth is spherical. This evidence was given by Aristotle. Okay, so Aristotle has lot of emphasis on empirical का मतलब क्या है? Observation. Observation based studies. So he was a proponent of, he was a very famous supporter of the idea, go and see. बैठे बैठे यहां पे ज्ञान मत दो, जाके देख के आओ. Go and see approach in geographical studies. Go and see approach in same thing, Nikhil. When in deductive approach, the law that I start with is called as the hypothesis. Okay. So deductive approach starts with a general law called as hypothesis. अरे ये क्या बोल दिया आपने? Amit says, sir, you are handsome. Yeah. पहले बताना था ना, I will take you, I'll adopt you and take you home. I tell my wife. She refuses to believe I'm still handsome. Okay. Anyways, I'm sure you are far more better than me, but I'll take your comment, no issues. This is a logical one or empirical one, Amit? Imagine तो नहीं है, मुझे देख रहा है, come on. You are completely dismissing me completely. Okay. So I think this is empirical evidence. I'm a good man too. Okay, come back here. All done? Go and see approach. In fact, if you know this, Alexander was a student of Aristotle. And some people say Alexander was inspired not to conquer the world, but he probably was inspired more by this thing of go and see. That's why he said Alexander did not annex any place. He would go, fight a war, give the kingdom back and move ahead. Some say that it was because his teacher told him कि दुनिया देख के आओ and come and tell me what you see. As wherever people obstructed him, he fought a war. अब पता नहीं, I mean, you can always debate on कि अगर देखना ही था तो देख आते, लड़ने की क्या जरूरत थी. Okay. Or maybe Alexander had justified that ways. कि मैं देखना चाहता हूं बहुत गहरी नजर से. Okay. So आंखों का दोष है, whatever. Okay. So anyways, go and see. अच्छा, उसके बाद में Aristotle, was also among the first people to relate how climate and environment can impact personality. An example of, again, man-environment relationship. How climate and environment can impact personality. इसको हम आगे पढ़ेंगे. This is something called as environmental determinism बोलते हैं इसको. Environment determines who you are. Environment determines the development that you achieve. It's called as environmental determinism. ठीक है? That I am an angry man because I live in tropical areas which are hot. They make me restless. I'm a lazy man because I live in cold areas where my energy is low. And according to him, Greece was best. वो ना ही tropical hot है और ना ही cold like temperate regions हैं. So Greece, he said, has the best type of people on the earth. It was his way of arguing about how climate impacts personality. An example of environmental determinism, study of man-environment relationship. Apart from this, Aristotle also laid down the steps and the principles of scientific study. He laid down the steps and the principles of scientific study. He said, कुछ भी आप पढ़ो, whatever you study, he said there are 4 things you must focus on. Number 1, first tell me what is the characteristics of that object. Say मैं पढ़ रहा हूं something called as say this scale. He says the first step is tell me its characteristics in terms of dimensions. how long, how wide, how thin. ये dimensions हो गया पहले. Describe the dimensions. Second, what is it made up of? Made up of plastic, wood, steel. Third, how was it made? Process क्या था बनने का? Some forging, some industrial process, some melting. Okay. And the fourth is, what purpose it serves. It says, if you have these four answers, you know about the object. I take up, say anything, say take up glass. First dimensions batao. Cylindrical, diameter, what's the height, what's the dimensions, what it looks like. Then it's made up of plastic or glass or steel. Third, how was it made? Kya process tha banne ka? You melt iron or melt say glass, or you cut a wood. And the fourth, what purpose it serves. I drink water, I can probably give water, it can store water, okay, or it can be a pen stand, whatever purpose it serves. Okay, so he laid down the principles of scientific study. Observe and record the dimensions. Number 2, observe the material. Number 3, study and discover the process in its formation. The 5th, study the purpose for which it was made. Observe and record the dimensions. Okay. Study the characteristics. Soft hai, hard hai, black hai, white hai, colorful hai. Study the dimensions and study the characteristics. The physical, the observable characteristics. Then he said, observe the material it is made up of. किससे बना है? Study, okay, and search for the process. वो कैसे बना होगा? It's like a plant. Describe the plant. Tall, a width, a wood, green, brown, red. Describe it. Then it's made up of what? Some cells, tissues. The process, germination, growth, okay, maybe metabolism, process kya hai, and the purpose for which it was made. The purpose may be, okay, food for people, the purpose could be oxygen, the purpose could be coal formation, whatever. And here he said, the ultimate purpose, the ultimate purpose is decided by divine forces. So this also is a teleological approach. So ultimately, okay, the purpose is defined by God, defined by some divine power. So he also was teleological in approach. हम आगे बताएंगे आपको. There is in geography there is a debate on the scientific approach which is called as positivism. इस टर्म सुना आपने? Positivism in geography. This basically means geography is a science, and this positivism was inspired by Aristotle's ideas. So within bracket mention, these became the basis of the principle of positivism. The principle of positivism in later geography studies. In later geography studies. Yes, you're right. Aristotle also talked about एक और contribution add करो. So what was this? This was number 5. Next number 6 add कर लो. 6 is he also he also studied the livability of a place. He also studied the livability, whether a person can live there or not. A livability of a place on the basis of the climate. On the basis of the climate. And Aristotle had divided the earth into, ecumene and non-ecumene. The word ecumene means habitable, जहां पर आप रह सकते हो. And this is non-habitable. Earth is ecumene and non-ecumene. And this habitation is a function of climate and physical conditions. You can't live in swamps. You can't live in oceans. You can't live in very, very hot areas. He divided the earth into ecumene and non-ecumene. Habitable and non-habitable. As a function of climate and physical conditions. Slope, rainfall, type of surface. This is also an example of environmental determinism. Two examples of environmental determinism. One is climate decides a person's personality, and climate environment decides the habitability of a place. Environmental determinism. What this means? Basically two words. Environment determines. It basically implies that environment is the main causal factor. Why do I put on sweater? Environment tells me to put on a sweater because it's cold. Why do I eat rice? The environment tells me you can only grow rice in hot and wet conditions, not wheat. Therefore, I eat rice. Why do I worship a particular god? Environment gives me that feature as a powerful feature. So I worship storms, I worship trees if I am in the forest. The environment decides my beliefs. Environment decides my festivals. Lodi is end of winters. Okay, the sowing season, harvesting season is environmentally determined. So this word essentially means environment is the main causal factor. हम जो भी करते हैं, we are like slaves of environment. It's called as environmental determinism. I'll teach again, don't worry, I'll come back on this all over again. Every region of economic activities, well, yes, not every region, but definitely a lot of economic activities depends on the environmental factors. Okay, anybody else? Any questions? So for Aristotle, God is a scientific existence. ठीक है? तो ये कोई और समझाएगा हमें कि just because we can't prove it is no logical reason to dismiss God. Okay? Just because I can't explain it does not mean God is not there. So that's how they argued. If I keep on moving backwards, I will hit a dead end. Dead end where all known knowledge fails. Dead end where even future knowledge will fail because it's so immense. And therefore we say, okay, so यहाँ पर God is not simply a figure. God can be energy. God could be some unknown universe power. So don't see the God where we worship God. वो वाला God नहीं है. Some divine power, something beyond our thought existence that decides everything else. So for them, God is also scientific. Okay? I'll come back on this again. Anybody else? Yes, correct, Nikhil. You are right. This looks like a paradox. Okay, but with their scientific knowledge, teleology is also a logical explanation. No, Nidhi, वो अलग चीज है. God particle अलग चीज है. Okay, we'll move on now. Amit, don't go that route right now. Abhi ruko. All done here? The contributions of Aristotle. Okay. Then we have the next person is Eratosthenes. Eratosthenes. Now, this man, okay, he was again a disciple of Aristotle. इनके geography contributions में he again was into cartography. He made maps. He also had studied or tried to measure the circumference of Earth. ये बड़ा famous experiment है. Using the shadow of the sun, okay, he was able to find out what is Earth's circumference, and his calculation was very accurate. कुछ errors थे, but it was fairly accurate. He studied and he measured the circumference of Earth. Eratosthenes classified Earth's climate zones into torrid, as in hot areas, into temperate, as in cool areas, and frigid, as in frozen areas. ये अभी भी यूज करते हैं हम लोग. The tropical areas are hot, so torrid areas. Okay, उसके north चले जाओ, south चले जाओ, it is cooler. You call this as temperate regions. उसके north चले जाओ towards pole, it's all frozen. We call it as frigid. This was the first climatic classification of the Earth. Okay, and this was a function of what? Distance from the equator. Eratosthenes, the first man to talk about climate, is a function of latitude. How far away from equator you are, it can be cold, it can be warm. Climate as a function of latitude. The other 3-4 Greek philosophers, we skip all of that. These 7-8 names are good enough for us. So what are the contributions of Greeks in the development of geography? All good, all of you? So आपको करना क्या है पता है? Back in your room, make a table. List the names. For each name, just 2-3 words. What they have done. What they have done. So in less than maybe a column, इतने से box में, list down the works of the Greeks. Then you list down the works of the Romans. You list down the works of the Arabs. एक page में summarize करो all the contributors. Check all of you? Okay, I'm done with the Greeks. The next is the contributions of Romans. The contributions of Romans. Yes. ये सब 3rd-4th century. Okay. BC. 3rd-4th century BC. All of them. Okay, 300-400 BC की बात हो रही है. Okay, एक के बाद एक है. So they are disciples. So will not be a long time. ठीक है? Okay, now come towards Roman. Romans are the 1st and 2nd century AD. They come later. The contributions of Romans. So the Greek civilization declined and the Romans are now in the ascendancy. Romans mein, there were mainly two contributors. One is this man called as Strabo. Okay. Strabo was again a regional geographer. Strabo wrote a 17-volume encyclopedia called as Geographia. In some books, they write this as Geographica. Know about the names. It was 17-volume encyclopedia. And it covered the details of Asia, Europe, and Africa. Whatever was known about these three places was put in one book. A 17-volume, okay, a book on Earth, Asia, Europe, and Africa. So, जब वो encyclopedia लिख रहे हैं, okay, this also is an example of a literary tradition. Description is also an example of description. Is describing things. Go back to the way Hecataeus wrote, or Homer wrote, okay, or the works of Herodotus. ये वही कर रहे हैं. An encyclopedia of Asia, Europe, and Africa. Okay. Now Strabo did one more thing. Strabo, okay, tried establishing the purpose of geography. The purpose of geography, he said, was to know the physical and human details of a region. Okay. And by knowing this, he said, geography should help the kings and administrators in their conquest and in their administration. Geography should know the physical, the natural, and the human details of a place. कहाँ mountain है, कहाँ river है, कैसे लोग हैं, कैसे agriculture है, okay, what culture they have, what language they speak. Geography must know the physical, as in natural, and the human details of a place. For what? They should help the kings and the administrators in their conquests and administration. In their conquests and their administration. In fact, Romans were very good with this. The constructions they had, the type of road they made, the type of aqueducts they made, it was based on geographical knowledge. The attacks, okay, that they had was based on knowing the battlefield very well. कहाँ resources हैं, कहाँ advantage होगा attack का in their army. That's what made Romans so formidable. He said geographers are not regular scholars. Geographers are very important part of administration. Geographers are very important part of political ambitions. The purpose of geography was to know the physical and the human details of a region. Likho, Harshvardhan, to know the physical and the human details of a region. And geography should help the kings and the administrators in their conquests and their administration. To help the kings and the administrators in their conquests and their administration. All done, all of you? Yes. Yes, same names की बहुत सारी किताबें हैं, right? Okay, and then different books have used different spellings. से आपका अगर if you open Dikshit, it says geography, not even Sophia. PHY ही बोलता है. Okay, so ठीक है, fine, no issues. Okay, that's the work of Strabo. But एक important point ये है that in Strabo's, encyclopedia compilation, the details were part fact and part fiction, part imagination. In the Strabo's encyclopedia compilation, the details were part facts. Okay, definitely they have traveled more, but उसमें काफी कुछ inaccuracies भी हैं, part fictional accounts also. So these type of encyclopedias are called as cosmographies. Cosmographies are not the best accurate details. We call this as cosmographical writing. Cosmographies. Okay? So cosmographical writings में थोड़ा imagination भी है, थोड़ा सा fiction add कर दिया. So these are not the most scientific works. ठीक है? So Strabo. Then we have the next scholar is Ptolemy. A very interesting character, Ptolemy. Ptolemy, some say he was African by origin, some say he was European, some say he was a king, some say he was a governor. Okay, so there's a lot of obscure facts about this man, Ptolemy. Some say he was Egyptian, taken as slave to Roman Empire, and then he became a very powerful advisor and scholar. Anyways, now Ptolemy, he was the master of cartography. A very big scholar. He had works on music, he had works on life forms, but in geography, he was a master of cartography. He wrote a book called as Almagest. Almagest is an encyclopedia of map making. ये बुक largely lost है. इसमें कुछ chapters बचे हुए हैं, the others have referred to. There is a chapter in Almagest called as syntaxis. And the syntaxis is the basis of a method of map drawing called as conical projections. A method of map making called as conical projection. ये अभी भी use होता है. You remember Eratosthenes had said, when he had made maps, Eratosthenes का map का technique था, a method called as stereographic projections. ये भी method use होता है, अभी भी use होता है. Stereographic projections was by Eratosthenes, where Ptolemy taught us what's called as conical projections. You imagine the world being drawn on a conical shape. Okay? So it's a very common method. Conical method is used for even maps of India. Indian maps are all drawn on conical methods. No, not the whole world map. ये method of map making है. The whole world map comes later. Okay, this was a contribution. So this approach tells us that Ptolemy was a contributor in the mathematical and geometric approach. Something like what Thales and Anaximander had tried. Ptolemy tried to revive, or he worked more on the mathematical and the geometrical approach in geography. Mathematical and the geometric approach in geography. So one page, ये दो names हैं. All the books that you read, the works of Romans are these two people in geography. The works of Strabo was regional. अच्छा ये लिखा कि नहीं लिखा मैंने? Strabo's work was लिखा मैंने? Yeah, regional is very important word. That he is one of the, because it talks about Africa as a region. Not the whole world. It talks about Asia as a region. The region geographer is work, and Ptolemy's work was cartography, mathematics and geometry. Okay. Anybody else? Any questions on this? Okay. So with this, okay, we say it is the end of the antiquity. The third phase was the Dark Ages. The contributions of Greeks done, the contributions of Romans done, the major antiquity. Then we have the Dark Age. Dark Age बड़ा debatable है. Like I said, some say it started 300 AD or 500 AD. Some say it went on till 800 AD. Some say it went on till 1000 or 1100 AD. So more or less this time is called as Dark Age. So almost 500-700 साल का decline. So in this age what happened was, there was decline of the Roman Empire. ये खत्म हो गया. This was the time when it was the rise of Christianity and the rise of the church and the Pope. Okay. And with this what happened was, okay, the kings sought legitimacy from the church. It was a very interesting association. The king wants to be known as the most powerful man. The church, if they say he's the king, then nobody can challenge him. And in turn, the king would protect the church. I think this religion and politics का जो unholy relationship है यहीं शुरू होता है. Okay, and ये कहानी अभी भी है. Across the world, you can see revivalism. Okay, in India, if you know this man called Balban, okay, Balban sought patronizing, okay, the ulemas, because if the ulema says that he is God's gift to mankind, who will challenge religion? Who will challenge God? So across the world, this story has been played out. Okay, so it is therefore one of the objectives of the kings to establish themselves as divinity. अगर चर्च ने कह दिया या फिर कोई टेम्पल ने कह दिया और the mosque says, no, this king is God's gift or this king is the avatar of God, then the common man must accept him. This is how the politics played out. This politics में क्या होगा? The king will not challenge the church. It's symbiotic. आप जो बोलोगे हम मानेंगे. एक कंडीशन है कि मुझे आपको सपोर्ट करना पड़ेगा. So the church started establishing its superiority by saying all science, because देखो science is the first challenge to religion. Science will not take things blindly. So every religion का पहला काम होता है कि साइंस को साइड करो. Science is blasphemy. Science is Satan. Science is, is a sin. Okay. So anything that challenges the church, पहले उसको हटाना पड़ेगा. Which also includes art, music, paintings also. Because art, music, paintings में creativity है ना. And creativity can challenge. देखो, religion का पहला step होगा, you know what? One is remove science. Second is remove creativity. Because creativity gives you freedom. Okay. As a religious man, I will want to control you. For controlling, I must not give you any liberal thoughts. Liberal thought is man is great. Liberal thought is man is free. Liberal thought is, okay, a man should not be enslaved. Liberal thought is man has rights. A religion bolega, man is, okay, part of a hierarchy. Man must serve XYZ. Man can't rebel. Man can't question. Man can't doubt. Okay. If you ask a religious man, why is this right? उसका argument शुरू होगा because God said so. अब God said so के बाद में how do you challenge somebody? तो सारा लॉजिक खत्म हो गया ना. ये क्यों सही है? बिकॉज हमारे ग्रंथों में लिखा है. अब ग्रंथों में लिखा है, भगवान आ गए बीच में, हाउ डू यू चैलेंज? सो इन दिस रिलेशनशिप व्हाट हैपेंड वाज रिलीजन was supreme and science and art was discouraged. In fact, science was declared as blasphemous. Does it matter, all of you here? So in the Dark Ages, all scientific knowledge was discarded. You're back to, Socrates and Aristotle and Plato have talked about Earth in some ways. But with Dark Age, Earth is flat. The Dark Age, sun moves around the Earth. With the Dark Age, God is supreme and man must serve God. And to serve God, go through the church. To serve God, go through the priest. The priest becomes God's representative. Is it okay, all of you here? So, यहाँ का conclusion यही है that in the Dark Age, scientific geographical knowledge was destroyed. One sentence. The scientific geographical knowledge was destroyed. The libraries were burned down. Alexandria was burned, was destroyed. And the most atrocious innovation of Dark Age was what they called as the TO map. Romans had made maps. Ptolemy had made maps. Thales and Anaximander had made maps. Herodotus had made maps. Eratosthenes had made maps. Sara map church se bola jala do. Because all the maps are challenging something about the religion. Church said, हम map देते हैं. वो map कैसे होगा? The TO map was, this is the map of the world, where this is Asia, this is Europe, and this is Africa. This is the Red Sea, this is the Black Sea, and this is the Mediterranean Sea. और बीच में this is Jerusalem. नॉर्थ में हेवन है और साउथ में हेल है. This was the church approved map of the world. We guys can smirk and laugh and smile, but इतना आप करते तब ना आपको लटका देते सूली पे, शायद घोड़ों से, इधर घोड़ा उधर घोड़ा, your limb would be torn apart, and for more added fun, the intestine would be pulled out. Then the more gruesome the killing, the more exciting for the church, for the religion. And who does it? God is punishing him. This was the official map of the church. According to church, this is what the world was. Actually, क्या है पता है? You see what they have done. So today, you understand, this is Africa. This is Mediterranean Sea, Spain. This part is ऐसे, and you have the Black Sea here, you have the Red Sea here, Mediterranean, and this is Asia. अब इतना तो पता है नहीं, but somehow this map doesn't look symmetrical, na? God is perfect. How can God make a random world like this? God बनाएंगे तो एकदम symmetrical बनाएंगे, right? तो उन्होंने क्या किया इसमें? So this is Africa, this is Asia, this is Europe. So they have turned this, घुमा दिया ऐसे. So Mediterranean Sea नीचे आ गया, okay. Europe लेफ्ट में आ गया, अफ्रीका ईस्ट चला गया, एशिया नॉर्थ में आ गया. द रेड सी, okay, you're rotating like this. Red Sea has come on the right, or Black Sea for balancing symmetry लेफ्ट में डाल दिया. Okay, and it makes sense. सेंटर में जेरूसलम ही होगा और क्या होगा. Okay, मेरा मैप खराब है. Okay, so I will center like this. एकदम geometric center is Jerusalem. हर रिलीजन का अपना अपना जेरूसलम है, राइट? कोई मक्का बोलेगा, कोई काशीनाथ बोलेगा, ओके, बट एवरी रिलीजन हैज इट्स ओन सेंटर ऑफ द अर्थ, ओके, एंड ऊपर हेवन होना ही है, ओके, और हेल तो नीचे होगा. इज कॉल्ड एज द TO मैप, द डिस्ट्रक्शन ऑफ ऑल नॉलेज. ये डार्क एज का जो पेंटिंग्स हैं, एक फेज है कॉल्ड एज गोथिक पेंटिंग्स. आई डोंट नो इफ यू हैव हर्ड अबाउट दिस और नॉट. गोथिक पेंटिंग्स देखना, इतने घटिया पेंटिंग होते थे. ओके, द मैन डजंट लुक लाइक मैन. ऑल द ब्यूटीफुल पेंटिंग स्टार्टेड विद रेनेसां टाइम्स. गोथिक पेंटिंग्स आर ग्रोटेस्क. ओके, कोई प्रोपोर्शन नहीं, नो रिफाइनमेंट, बिकॉज आर्ट इनकरेज नहीं था ना. ओके, मैन बनाओ तो दे वुड जस्ट मेक अ मैन. दिस इज द मैन. ओके, आंख बना दिया, एक क्राउन पहना दिया तो ये किंग हो गया. ओके, सो गोथिक पेंटिंग्स आर वेरी क्रूड पेंटिंग्स, बट रेनेसां में द फिनिश कम्स इन. इट बिकम्स मोर एंड मोर रियलिस्टिक. इट बिकम्स मोर एंड मोर एंजल लाइक पेंटिंग्स इन रेनेसां टाइम्स. सो डार्क एज was resonating with the art form called as Gothic. अब Gothic architecture भी वैसे ही होता था. Huge buildings and very dark. Okay, if you look at Gothic cathedrals, tall and dark, अंदर डर लगेगा actually. Okay, because it was supposed to be intimidating for people, because that's how the church and the priest and the pope control the population. ठीक है? Yeah. So the dark age was this. Okay. Now in the dark age, okay, we have the Arabs in the ascendancy. So from 6th and 7th century onwards till about 1200-1300 AD tak, the Arabs were the most scientific population. The Arabs were travelers. The Arabs were scientific. The Arabs were curious. Curiosity is a very important hallmark of any society. जिस दिन आपका curiosity खत्म हो गया, then you are a dead man. And in the dark ages, curiosity was discouraged. Okay, curiosity का important part है ask questions. Curiosity is about doubting everything. Okay, the Arabs initially were these type of people, travelers. They were traders. कल बताया था ना, for traveling and trading, you're bound to be a bit more open than the others. But धीरे धीरे again the rot sets in. So Greeks were great, the rot sets in, they decline. Romans were great, again they start rotting. Okay, एक बार power आ गया, comfort आ गया, they again decline. The Europe's growth, Europe declines. The Arabs rose, the Arab declined. It's like a cyclic thing happening. So this was the time when the Arabs were, they were custodians of modern science. Okay, the Arabs developed libraries. The most important library was in Baghdad. Baghdad called as Baytul Hikmah. Bait means home. Hikmah as in knowledge or wisdom. Baitul Hikmah, a very famous Arab king, Harun al-Rashid. Harun al-Rashid. He encouraged कि जाओ knowledge लेके आओ Europe से, and I'll translate those into a modern Arabic literature. So mathematics, science, astronomy, trigonometry. Harun, H-A-R-O-O-N, Harun al-Rashid. Mamun al-Rashid. They all must have been the bigger kings then. The literature libraries in Baghdad, center called as Baitul Hikmah. Okay? Some important contributors to the, I'll give you 4 or 5 names on this. All done with this? So one important contributor was Al-Masudi. Al-Masudi, he had traveled along the African coast. The man who discovered monsoons. Al-Masudi, the traveler along African coast and discovery of monsoons. One man called Ibn Hawqal. Ibn Hawqal, he made the first climatic atlas. Ibn Hawqal. We have Ibn Battuta. He was a traveler to India also. Ibn Battuta, he was a traveler in Africa and also in India. Al-Biruni, again a traveler, documenting lot of Africa and Asia. Ibn Hawqal, Ibn Battuta, Al-Biruni, a very famous Arab scholar, Ibn Sina. He is also called as Avicenna. Ibn Sina or Avicenna. Now this man had studied lot of geomorphic processes. He studied river erosion, river deposition, landforms by fluvial processes. Ibn Sina. He had extensively studied River Nile and the delta of Nile. तो क्या Arabs के लिए ना ये River Nile बड़ा interesting था. Arabs have not seen river, as simple as that. Arabs know sand. Arabs know dry oasis. And the sands of Egypt में इतना बड़ा river, even now the world's longest river, and the Nile Delta, so fertile. Arabs have not seen fertile plains, right? So Nile fascinated lot of Arab scholars. And Avicenna did a long research on River Nile and studying how the Nile was formed. He was the first man to say the river erodes and deposits and creates the fertile soils of the delta. Okay? And one man, Ibn Khaldun. Now this man had studied, the rise and fall of civilizations. The Arabs curious, why did the Greeks become powerful and why they collapsed? Why the Romans became so powerful and why the Romans collapsed? Why the Europeans became so powerful and they collapsed? Why? He's asking questions. And he concludes, very interesting idea, he says, that when man is, early days, man is a nomad. Man is living in jungles. Man is hunting, gathering. Man is having cattle, sheep, traveling. He says when man is living with the nature and adjusting with the nature, man will be able to survive the nature. If I'm a hunter, I'm a gatherer, I know how to read seasons. If I'm a nomadic herder, I know the seasons. Kab grass hoga, kab grass nahi hoga. Okay. And I must walk the forest, walk the mountains. So man is strong. Okay. But when man starts settling and have agriculture, now what happens is, I become complacent, he says. Complacent, man now depends on the nature, and slowly, gradually, man loses his instincts of survival. Okay, बारिश होगा हम खेत करेंगे, बारिश नहीं हुआ droughts हो गया, I can't hunt anymore. Okay, I am a nomadic traveler, I can hide in the forest, live in the caves. But now I am living in a house that I have made. And if there is a flood, I can't escape. So his theory was that as long as you are travelers, you're living with the nature, you will not collapse. But the moment you live a sedentary life, depend on agriculture, you will collapse. Okay, so he traced the rise and fall of civilizations. His theory was what? Okay, man adjusting with nature will survive. Man dependent on the nature will collapse. So, nomadic life, travelers, these are more resilient. A sedentary life, agriculture, and settled living makes you vulnerable. I repeat, man adjusting with nature will survive. Okay. A nomadic life is all about living with the nature. Nomadic life, or you're a traveler, you are resilient. You'll fight nature, you will try to read the nature. Man depending on the nature. Okay, man living a sedentary life, farming communities, urban communities, or settled living, then you become more vulnerable. You lose resilience, you'll collapse. So we may disagree, वो अलग बात है, but it's an insight. And he was warning the Arabs, don't settle down. You are travelers, live like travelers. You're nomadic, live like nomadic. Okay. Your power is that you know nature better. You can read the nature better. I mean, I'm sure you all have heard about tribes, right? Tribes who can smell and tell rain kab hone wala hai. Tribes who can put the ear on the ground and tell where water is. Okay. Tribes can look at the trees and tell where the animals are. Okay. So they read the nature better. They live with the nature and adjust. You and I, अभी बारिश है, क्यों है, ठंड लगी, गर्मी लगी, we will collapse. कल लाइन नहीं रहे 2-3 दिन, will melt to death. Right? So his idea was that travelers and nomadic life is more superior than settled living. This is an example of, again, man-environment relationship. Yes, it's an example of, okay, man is inferior to nature. Man must follow the design of the nature. इसका example क्या हुआ फिर? This is also environmental determinism. Study of man-environment relationship, study of how man must follow the design of the nature. So some people call Ibn Khaldun as the first scientific environmental determinist. He may be referred as the first scientific environmental determinist. All good? I hope इसमें कोई दिक्कत तो नहीं हो रही, right? They're all stories, right? Stories, experiences. Geography कैसे refine हो रहा है धीरे धीरे. How some ideas are getting repeated. How some notions about Earth is getting established. All good, all of you here? Okay. I'll just introduce the next topic and we can disperse thereafter. The next is the age of voyages and the age of revivalism of Europe. We also call this as the Renaissance in Europe. The age of voyages, revivalism of Europe, or Renaissance in Europe. Exact date though we can't be sure about, maybe around 1300s onwards. Okay. अच्छा, ये शुरू कैसे हुआ? How it happened? Essentially the fight was again religious in nature, where if you look at the world, that's Africa, okay, and this is Europe, France, Germany, Britain, they are here. The Arabs have made a huge empire, okay, the Ottoman Empire, the Arabs are everywhere. Spain, here, Rome, Eastern Europe, Bulgaria, entire of this, they are here. Persia, they've entered into India, parts of Russia, the huge Ottoman Empire. और ये पूरे center में, a very important center is, okay, Jerusalem here. So Arabs, they are rich. Arabs trade with Asia. The Arabs control Jerusalem and all trade routes. Europe, okay, it is awakening. Okay, that we are nobody. Okay, they know about Asia is rich. Silk hai, gold hai, textile hai. Okay, they have art, crafts. They know about this because people come back from here and they tell them Marco Polo has traveled. So these guys know, but the problem is this is Arabs. So Arabs, they control all the trade routes. यहाँ तक जाओगे कैसे? Europeans said हमें भी trade करना है. We also want to become rich. Arab says हमसे खरीदो. Okay, why buy from them? We'll go there, you buy from us. One. Number two, Jerusalem was under the Arabs. These guys want Jerusalem. Okay, so the Europeans did two things. One was they started looking for routes to reach Jerusalem. They ran what's called as crusades. ये नाम सुना होगा आपने? Crusades are like holy wars. Holy war, fight the Arabs and take control of Jerusalem. Second is, they know the world is round. इतना confirm हो चुका. TO map is gone. A world round है, so how do you go here? They said एक काम करते हैं, let us go westward and घूम के इधर पहुंचेंगे Asia. So the Europeans' ambitions, one was to secure Jerusalem. Second was they wanted the trade route to Asia. So they start, and means you must enter the sea now. That's how the Europeans started. Now innovations, curiosity, ship making industry starts again. Okay, they want to study the climate better. They are now making maps of the world. So ये जो काम है, इसके वजह से they start making maps. They start traveling. They start documenting whatever they are seeing. They start acknowledging resources and the political might of other countries. So this is how they start discovering the world. Okay. One third thing very important was, the Europe realizes कि यार ये church वर्च बड़ा गड़बड़. I mean, it took them 300-500 साल लगा. Someday आंखें खुलेंगी, right? Across India में वही होने वाला है. One day you'll wake up to realize the world has gone to some other place, और अभी हम अभी भी ancient golden age of Gupta कर रहे हैं. Okay. But we have, तब तक आपका 500-600 साल जा चुका होगा. But then you will rise up. It's a cycle. When you rise up, you realize that church is the problem. So now they start encouraging more of science. They start encouraging, okay, more of art forms. Remember, any rebellion में ना, art form becomes very important. Your rebellion will first show in music. It will show in painting. It will show in theater. So ये जो revivalism था, okay, revivalism was on 3 fronts. Scientific expansion, it was in trade and travel, and also in the art forms. That's how the society revives. ऐसा नहीं है कि church destroy हो गया, अभी भी pope हैं, but church is no longer the main authority anymore. Okay, अब church में we start getting more innovative, and that's how you know about the rise of Protestants, right? Protestants are like a challenge to Catholics. Catholics are far more restrictive, far more conservative. Protestants say, no, we want to be more open. ये हर religion में होगा. Okay, the one group becomes the conservative, okay, very strong laws and dogmas. Other group says, भाई भगवान तो हैं, but भगवान ऐसे थोड़ी हैं. भगवान is more kinder, more accommodative, cool dude types हैं. Okay, not as a demonic monster you make up of. So you had a lot of religious reforms happening here, and this creates avenues for geographical inquiry. जब आप travel करोगे तो देखोगे, right? यहाँ पर land है. They thought oceans. They discovered North America here. They discovered islands here. Slowly traveling, they mapped the world and they found the sea route towards India. And I'm sure Arabs have helped them. Okay, so that's how the knowledge of the world becomes a far more expansive than it was in the time of Dark Ages. So 2 lines likho aap. There are 2 lines. In the age of voyages and renaissance, in the age of voyages and renaissance, European initiatives included travels, voyages, discovery of sea routes, travel, voyages, discovery of sea routes, and the tradition of map making, cartography, and more expensive encyclopedias, on the diversity of Earth. Let's write down. In Renaissance, there was a renewed interest in. Physics, mathematics, okay, and also expansive documentation of, and also expansive documentation of physical and social diversity on Earth. Physical and social diversity on Earth. Next point. Maps became more refined and more correct. Maps became more refined and more correct. And globes were made. And globes, round, okay. And globes were made. Next head down. European kings like Henry the Great, European kings like Henry the Great invested in shipbuilding. Invested in shipbuilding. So Spain, he was a Portuguese king. So Spain and Portugal, they became centers of shipbuilding size. A lot of travelers. And that's how, the Spanish and the Portuguese were among the first ocean, voyages in armadas. पहले छोटे मोटे डोंगे होते होंगे, some small fleets होते होंगे. But large Spanish armada was a huge naval buildup, far bigger than the Romans have seen. And that's how they start conquering North America, South America, and the rest. Right down. Okay. The Europeans traveled westward and discovered the Americas. And Vasco da Gama, I think 1498, and Vasco da Gama discovered the sea route to India. Discovered the sea route to India. Okay, all done? Fine then, that's for today. So I didn't discuss the book today because I could see some of you have not brought it. Can you all bring this book tomorrow, please? Okay. Last reminder, iske baad mein I'll start marking. For now, the focus is only the notebook. आप और कुछ नहीं पढ़ोगे अभी आप notebook से ही note करोगे. And tomorrow I'll tell you what pages you can refer to your textbook. ठीक है? चलो, bye bye. Catch you tomorrow. Today is Wednesday, so you also have the case study at 2:30 today also. So you can stay back and do those sessions, please. It's almost like geography-based current affairs. So online students, you can log in from your dashboard, and YouTube guys, YouTube में भी links हैं. Okay, bye bye all of you.